Welcome to Response-Able Parenting, the podcast that shows you how to parent in alignment to your emotions, needs, and goals versus your programming, bad advice, and let's face it, outdated strategies that just don't work. You'll get in the trenches support on nervous system and emotional regulation, critical mindset shifts, stronger communication strategies, and more. In this podcast, you'll gain transformational tools that take you from reacting to every frustration to responding with clarity, regulation, and finally setting the example you desire for your kids. I'm Becky Jennings, your new parenting coach, and this is the Response-Able Parenting podcast. Let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk about how my son became really successful in overcoming one of his impulses. Now, impulses are very much the front and center thing that we deal with on a regular basis with ADHD. Impulse control can almost feel like there's no shot at getting this to change, that there's no shot in making any sort of difference, that honestly, the only thing that's going to help is like medication, because something needs to dull the impulses because it's way too much. But I am here to say that we had a lot of success by following my 8-step process when it came to taking it too far with his friends. Taking it too far, that can always be like a really shameful, frustrating, really challenging place to observe and just feel again as a parent. Because we do a lot of talking. We do a lot of talking and a lot of coaching and a lot of supporting and a lot of, sometimes it's negative too. We're like, why did you do that? Like we literally just talked about that. Why would you do that again? And it can just feel like there is no way that the child is actually going to make any real change, that we're almost just waiting for like the really bad consequence of maybe somebody kind of beating them up or roughing them up a little bit, and then they would learn from that. Or like maybe they age out of this impulsive stage, or, we just constantly are kind of waiting it out. Like, will this improve ever? Is it ever going to get better? And something that, we just couldn't wait out was the impulsive nature of which he was engaging with his friends on the schoolyard. And it is something that, when you get that email or you get that feedback, it can feel like a total gut punch to you as a parent, especially if you feel like you've been working on it and you've been trying a lot of things to support the better behavior, and still nothing is working and the behavior happened again. And it's not only embarrassing, it's frustrating, and it can elicit quite the reaction out of us. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. And for them, they didn't know that they did the wrong thing. More often than not, they're just following the sensation in their body, and they're following the default pattern in their brain that they've always followed. And so how do we address this so that behavior change is possible? So this is what I do inside of my program every single day with my clients. And I invite you to connect with me so that you could see if this would be an option for you as well. I'm hosting an upcoming free masterclass where I'm sharing a bunch of stuff as well. So make sure you jump into the show notes, register for the free masterclass so you're always up to date with the next masterclass time. But this is what we did. So basically, we're setting the scene. And I'm not going to share every detail, but I'm going to give you as much of the gist as I possibly can in this short podcast timeframe. So he was taking things too far with his friends, and it would be like with anything. It would be like playing tag, and then instead of just tagging the person, he'd push the person. Or, he, instead of just one hug, it would be like, I'm going to put my arm completely around your neck and kind of almost put you in a chokehold kind of hug. It was just always one step too far. And he was always the common denominator when somebody got hurt. And that gets really frustrating as a parent to be like, bro, you can't touch people's bodies. So there was a lot of that in the beginning. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. And he'd be like, got it. Okay, got it. There'd be a lot of talk. When you do this, it impacts people this way. Got it. Here's what you can do instead. Okay, I'll try that. And nothing ever sunk in until we started doing simulations. And this is where it's vitally important to have a deep understanding of what is happening for your child. If we don't have that understanding, then we don't know how to actually address the moment. We're still throwing strategy spaghetti against the wall. So it's mission critical to understand what is going on for your child in the moment. You have to understand that. And that's going to take some digging. And I help my clients inside the coaching program with questions and figuring out how to actually structure that conversation so you're not seeing the whites of your kids' eyes as they roll their eyes back into their head and basically fall asleep and log off and stop listening to you. How do we get that information out of them? What are those type of strategies so that we can actually get to the core root of the challenge? Because your kid is probably saying to you when you say, "Why'd you do that again?" What I always got was, "Oh, I don't know why I did it. My body just told me to do it, and so I did it." The more I kept hearing, "My body just told me to do it, and so I did it," I'm like, we got to tell your body how to do something else. So that's what I do inside of my program every single day with my clients is I help them and empower the parent with the tools so they can help their child's body learn how to do something else. So what we did is we figured out what was getting in the way, what was hindering him in the moment, what was really driving those impulses. And a lot of it was the scarcity of that moment ending, that panic and fear that would rip through his body of like, I'm having so much fun with my friends. And if this moment ends, I don't know when I'm going to get that next one. And so that dopamine seeking behavior just poured through him and he just couldn't contain himself because he had so much fear and adrenaline and all these things coursing through his body being like, this might be the very last time that you have fun with your friends. Like literally that's how his body was like taking in these situations is, oh my gosh, kid, you only have about 6 more minutes of fun. And once those 6 minutes are over, we don't know when it's coming back. So maximize that time. And it did not ever go well. He certainly did not maximize the time efficiently. It ended up just exploding it. And then in one way or the other, either somebody got hurt or he was in trouble. So it was a disaster. So, and then the other fun thing is like, you hear about this later, right? You don't hear from it that same day. You hear from the teacher or the school after it's happened like 3 or 4 times. So you haven't been able to prepare your child. And then you're like, wait, what? Why didn't you tell me this earlier? I absolutely could have helped this whole situation. I digress. That's school systems in general. Anyways, so we started to figure out what was going on in his body and what was creating the sensation in his body, and also what was he thinking and feeling about himself in the moment. Now, again, this takes some digging, so it's really helpful to have a guide and a coach to be able to help you get through those questions because it can, again, elicit frustration from us when we're getting the I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. So then we figured out a strategic way that he could make a different decision in the moment when his body felt like that. Great. That's all beautiful talking. But here's where things actually change. Is we go from just talk, 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 try this in the moment, see how it goes. Okay, bye, you're off to school again, to let's run the play. Let's run the play. Let's mock it up and pretend that this scenario is happening again. And then let's do the thing we just decided we were going to test and try in the heat of the moment. Now, we did that the first time. And it was kind of like silly and clunky. And it just kind of felt like, why are we doing this? And it didn't really work. The second time we did it, he was like, okay, I'm getting into it. And we started actually creating an environment of high stimulus and high energy and maybe some rough housing. And I could see immediately his body escalated, right? Immediately he was like, oh, I'm going to win. This is fantastic. I could see like that, that glimmer in his eye that he's like, this is awesome. And then I did my part of what we had talked about, what we were going to do. And he totally forgot in the moment. He was like, what are you doing? Why are you stopping? And I'm like, this is what we just talked about. And he's like, oh, okay. So we did it again. And we did it several times through the week. We actually ran the play. We ran the play. In, I would say probably 10 days later, I know it sounds like a lot, but we're already wasting a ton of time correcting them and yelling at them and talking at them. So we ran the play again and again and again and again and again. In not every not every situation was the same. I would simulate it like, hey, we have a birthday party coming up. Let's pretend we're at the bottom of a bounce house. What would that look like? You've just gone down the slide. There's a kid there. You bump into them really hard. Ooh, that was really fun. You probably want to do that again, right? Then we had like a towel that we were messing around with, and that, we created that environment again. We ran the play again. It wasn't until like the 10th time where I stopped and he looked at me and he goes, that's what you've been talking about this whole time? And I was like, yes, buddy, that's what we've been practicing this whole time. And he was like, oh, now I get it. And we haven't had an issue since.
I started the program with Becky because I have and had difficulties at home with my 6-year-old. He was very triggered by something, and then I got triggered by that, and it all went together and gave a big explosion. Just after 1 week of Becky's program, also participating in the group calls that she offers, and just through the way she's presenting the information, I've already done a lot of work on this topic, but I had a total breakthrough. We are progressing so much at home, and things are getting lighter. I'm feeling more connected to my son, understanding more what's going on with myself, have tools to deal with that. I really feel seen and heard by Becky. And like one of the first things she wrote when we were in personal contact on Instagram is that you're not alone with this. And there was a lot of shame for me on that topic, that me as a mother, I'm not able to handle the situation. It was a great relief to see that in short time, in a few days, now I think in the 3rd week of the program, I've managed changes that I've been trying to achieve for a very long time, for 2 years or so. I'm very happy, and I wish the same for you.
And this is why it's super important, because ADHD children in general, everybody in general, let's just be honest, it's like a person thing. We have to feel an experience. We have to experience the moment in our body and choose a different path towards the behavior that we want to see. And we have to do that on repeat in order to actually make meaningful change. For instance, if you are like, I want to lose X amount of weight, and then you start to notice, okay, typically my pattern is after the kids are asleep, I sit down on the couch, I snack a little bit, that actually could be a contributing factor. So the next day you're like, I'm going to not snack on the couch. And so you sit down on the couch like you always do, and you go, oh my God, I have that craving to go get snacks. And you have to feel the feeling, that desire, that want, that sensation in your body, because your nervous system loves predictability. And so it predicts every single night you sit on the couch, you eat some snacks. It's waiting for you to do that. And so you start to feel uncomfortable. You start to feel dysregulated because your body is saying, what are you doing? You're doing something different. Go get the freaking snacks. This is what we do. This is what we know. This is how we operate. Go do that. And you have to feel that sensation in your body and still make a different choice in the desired direction of the desired outcome. Kids can't do that. Kids can't do that without us. They absolutely cannot do that on their own. They can't. We barely can. And so what we have to do as the parent is get that feeling, help them reach that sensation in their body where they're about to do the standard protocol impulsive behavior that has not gone smoothly or well for them, or it's created rupture, or it's created somebody's gotten hurt, they've gotten in trouble, etc. We have to get them to that feeling so their nervous system can say, I know what this feeling is. This is a very predictable experience. I'm going to go do this. And then right before I go do this, my parent is here to guide me to the better, more desirable, more connected, reward-filled outcome. And we run that over and over and over and over and over again, building a different predictability in the body so that they actually feel what it feels like to do the right thing. Because if we're relying on our child to remember what to do in the moment, we are setting both them and us up for massive failure. Because working memory, which basically is like short-term memory, is very, very challenging for ADHD kids. It's very challenging for most kids, but especially challenging for ADHD kids. So expecting them to rely on executive functioning in a heightened emotional, exciting, aroused state, we're setting them up for massive failure. And so they need to know what it feels like in their body, and they need to rehearse it. They need to practice it. They need to know what to do instead. And when we can do this, we can actually make permanent change in the directions that we want to see. Maybe you need a tune-up every now and then, but you're not going to be doing the heavy lifting anymore, constantly redirecting, constantly correcting. You're going to be like, this is what we do. This is how we do it. Practice until it takes root and they get it. And then you can move on to the next. So if this sounds enticing to you, definitely check out the free masterclass that I have in the show notes. Here's what I will say though. That is just one part of the puzzle. So yes, this is very exciting information. This is very exciting news, and it's one step of the very necessary steps. You can go ahead and do this. That's fine. Do it on your own. However, if the other 7 steps in this 8-step process that is absolutely necessary in order to make actual real long-term permanent behavior change, if those aren't in place, then the effort here isn't sustainable. The other 7 actually create the sustainability of it so that this can be repetitive. This can be how we follow all of the actual, how we make all of the actual real change. So I just want to give you a picture of what is possible. Took about 10 days to 2 weeks to really dial in and tackle a very challenging behavior. So that's a lot of hope to know that that's available, that that's an option. And when done correctly, then your kids are actually just like, I get it. I can do it. And then they're empowered. And then, you just don't have so many rounds of the same battle. You actually can move on and move to the next thing that's frustrating. Maybe there's another thing that's, just as aggravating, but we get to tackle that and we get to really figure out, okay, now let's move on to the impulse of just grabbing something that, isn't yours from my purse or from the counter or from the dog or whatever it is. And then we can move on to the next. How does that feel? Let's move on to that one. So if this sounds interesting to you, jump into the show notes. You can either book a call with me for free or you can attend the upcoming free masterclass, but I will basically be showing you what all those other 7 steps are and why they are so critical in ahead of doing this last and final step. Because you can do all the strategies that you want. That's totally that's where most of us start this process, is the strategy. I just need a strategy. I just need a quick fix. But that's one piece of the puzzle. There's many other pieces of the puzzle that need to be in place in order for us to be successful over the long term. That it's not just a quick fix and we can just kind of exhale for a minute. It's so it can be complete and not just put on pause. All right, that's it for today, and I will see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Responsible Parenting Podcast. If you like what you heard, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. If you know someone who would benefit from this podcast, I'd be honored if you'd share this episode with them. Until next time, know that you are enough, you are capable, you've made it through all of your hardest days, and we will keep growing on this parenting journey together. This podcast was produced by Kim Kelty and myself, Becky Jennings, and edited by the Kelty Method, Branding and Podcasting.